Hi, my name's Pharaoh, and today I'm back at my measurement base, and here I'm going to look at my first micro adjustment. And the micro adjustment I'm going to look at today is the one that I use most frequently, which is to use light floors and light boxes to budge out a very small amount. So let's first look at what that micro adjustment is. We're going to use the difference between the light floor and the light box. And specifically, if we move out 2 light floors from our starting position, but then instead of positioning a light floor, we copy a light box, and then using the universal adjacency technique, we store that in the Y menu, and then copy a light floor. We want to rotate it such that the little black mark between the tram lines is off to the right. Glitch back to the light box. We have a light box pointing towards us, and then we can move back along to our initial starting position. Now this looks as if it's in exactly the same position as the light floor, but it actually isn't. In fact, let's see if we can see the difference. If we now use an adjacency from the light box to a light floor, and we can see there's that little tiny white mark here, which indicates the second floor isn't quite in line with the first floor. So we're going to examine exactly how far that is and one example of what we could use it for. We can work out exactly how far this micro adjustment is by referring to our measurements. So we're going outwards by 2, so from this center point here we're going 1, 2 to the first light box, and then the centered light box, which I'm just going to position manually for now, comes back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so what we need to do is take away the measurement of 7 light boxes away from the measurement of 3 light floors. This works out as exactly 1/75th of a unit, so 1 divided by 75 of a unit, which is pretty small. So one possible use for this could be to budge a wall slightly downwards until it doesn't have the context anymore. So we no longer have these slats, but we just have another wall on top. And as you can see here, I budged it down about the amount of that top plank there. Starting with a wall, we're going to universally adjacency glitch from a wall snapped on top to a light floor. So we need to put the light floor into the Y menu, snap a wall on top, and glitch to the light floor. Next we want to flip this light floor, so we snap a light floor away from the wall with the mark between the tram lines pointing towards the wall, and then we use the wire point on that floor to flip the wire vertically in the position just above the wall. So now I have a wire that's flipped sideways, and I can glitch a light floor onto that. Then we want to rotate the light floor with the mark pointing upwards so that we can universal adjacency to a light box, the idea being that the light box will be twisted in such a way that we can build upwards. So again, we store the light box into the Y menu, and then we copy and rotate the light floor with that mark pointing upwards and glitch to the light box. And there we have a light box ready to start building on. I'm using light boxes to start with because we want the jump point to go down. And I'm using 4 times 7 light boxes upwards. And then I'll bring the light floors down. So that's the first 7. And the way this micro adjustment works, if we use the light boxes first and then the light floors, then it moves in the opposite direction to the way we're going. And if we use the light floors first and then the light boxes to come back, then the budge is in the same direction as this movement, so it would be upwards. So in this case, because we're using the light boxes first and the light floors second, the end point will be slightly lower than where we started. So now we've got to the top. That's 4 lots of 7. The very last one, the 7th one at the top, I've turned into a light floor. I'll bring that point back down with light floors until we get to the middle. Now we need to rotate this point back. So if we look at the little light on the side of the little power connector, we want it to point downwards like this one. So let's position this one here. Glitch from a new one and position it on that connector. Position one on the other side and glitch to our new point, making sure that it's the bottom of those two, because as you can see it's slightly lower. Let's get rid of all of these. So next I'm going to actually glitch the wall onto that new point. As you can see here, and now I can use rotate wire again. I can switch between the 2 wire points and choose which one I want. And now if I snap the wall to the side of that first wall, they overlap slightly. And they overlap in such a way that it doesn't contextually produce those slats. Whereas if I position one on top of here, it does create those slats. If you look closely at the top here, you can see the slight jump downwards. It's about the same as that little plank on top. So you might ask what happens if we only move out one light floor. So let's try that. First of all, let's line up by snapping and adjacency to a light floor. And then position a light box in the middle of it. So we want to only move out this one. So we will copy the light box, put that into the wire menu, copy the light floor, rotate such that it's pointing out to the right, glitch back to a light box, move the light box back, and it is almost but not quite half a light box. This is what I call the approximate half light box spudge. Not really a micro adjustment, that's quite a big shift from there to there, but it's approximately half a light box. Now that movement from there to there can be measured again by taking one of the measurements away from the other to be 29/75 units away, which is a very cumbersome and not initially a very promising micro adjustment. We could combine this though with our half light box. So for instance, we could move half light box in one direction and an approximate half light box in another direction. So let's try that. It's going to be a little bit more lengthy. So let's do this. Let's start off with a light box. And a light floor in exactly the same spot. and we'll mark our position with a small timber floor. First of all, we want to rotate our light box we want to store it in the menu, copy our light floor and rotate it so that it's pointing. So that would be basically pointing towards us. So that would be rotating it round to the right. So let's position it there and glitch back to our light box. And here we have sideways pointing pair of light boxes. And if you remember, our half light box technique is back to front and then front to back. Select a byte beat switch. In the wire menu, rotate the wire so it's to the side and glitch onto that front one. Place another one behind it. So it was back to front first and now it's front to back. So we draw a wire from there to there. Get rid of these now. If we glitch onto here, now I want to rotate that again. Store that in the wire menu. And this light box is exactly half away from where we started. Now in the opposite direction, I'm going to use the approximate half light box. So again, we're going to need a light floor in that position. And we want to position a light box here. We copy the light box, store it in the wire menu, copy the light floor, rotate it the right way, switch back to a light box. And now we have a light box that's in approximately the same position as we started. So I've gone in one direction with an exact half light box and in the other direction with an approximate half light box. So let's compare the two positions. Again, we'll position a light floor here. So that wire point there is exactly in the center of our new position. So if we zoom right into the edge, we can see a very slight overlap of textures. And this overlap is a tiny, tiny increment. We can't really even see it when we zoom out. And if we take the measurements, we work out what half a light box is and then go back by an approximate half light box, it eventually works out at 1/150th of a unit, so 1 divided by 150. That's obviously a very, very tiny increment, and there won't be many reasons for us to use that, except that 150 is a more convenient number to divide by, so it could be useful if you wanted to find an exact half point between 2 points. With that measurement, we could divide a floor into 800 equal parts. I certainly have never used it personally, but I know there are people out there that do highly mathematical builds and really want to know precisely where something lies on the Cartesian plane, and so this 1/150th of a unit might be useful to some people. So there you have it, a discussion of some micro adjustments that might be useful, utilising the difference between lightfalls and light boxes, one that I use quite a lot, one that I've never ever used, and an example of how we might want to use them to avoid contextual pieces. And then of course the discussion of a half light box, which is only an approximation, but could be useful for just moving a part around small jumps. I've been Pharaoh. I hope you find this useful, and goodbye.